Look at that, on time for the first time on a Wednesday. Linc live show here. Thomas Mott, Josh Davis, Philly special show. Josh, what's up, man? It's another crazy week.
It is. It is. Once again, we're here, and third time's the charm, though, so we're on time. But man, what a busy, crazy week. Some awful news, some exciting news, some what are we gonna do? Gosh, so much to get into.
Yeah, I'm hoping next week is a happy week because free agency will have started. I think Philadelphia is going to make some minor moves that we're not going to see coming, like a Kaiser White move from last year. And that'll kind of maybe fill some of the holes that are going to be left by these guys leaving. But I think we start with the big Adam Schefter news. I know you talked about it on your show. I talked about it on my show today. Schefter went on 97.5 The Fanatic, and he said everyone's gone. CJ Gardner-Johnson is going to go somewhere else. Javon Hargrave is going to go somewhere else. James Bradbury is going to go someone else. And Schefter expects the big name free agents to all leave. I think we're all not shocked by Bradbury or Javon Hargrave. I think we're very much all surprised by CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Oh yeah, totally surprised. I think and I've heard this on so many, I'm sure everybody has too, just Twitter, YouTube, wherever. But if you polled anyone and said, "Hey, who's the one free agent that you're going to keep?" It's going to be CJ Gardner-Johnson. So as soon as the news broke, and it was like it was really just the worst case scenario, wasn't it? I mean, because like yesterday, it was like, okay, it's maybe he's going to go, but you're holding out hope, like, hey, you know what? He was probably always going to test the market, see what he can get. And then he drops the "thank you Philly" video, and then at that point it was like, okay, this is a reality. I mean, let's face the facts here. That he knows that he won't be back. Now he's letting his teammates know, which some of them probably already did because they didn't act too surprised. It was just,
right.
hey, we're gonna miss you. Congrats, love. Like, so I don't know, but yeah, it was shocking. I know that you always get reports, and then everybody can go back on them and say, well, no, not sure. But the fact that we just always heard they're going to tag CJ if they can't get a long-term deal done.
Right.
I don't know who, I can't recall who the first one was that with that report. But I don't know. I still was thinking like, okay, Howie rarely uses the franchise tag. The Eagles rarely use the franchise tag, but there was hope at that point of like, okay, cool. Hey, you know what? We've got our safety. We've got our man. And yeah, it's pretty depressing, quite honestly, the fact that we're going to be sitting here now and no CJGJ.
Let's do something that not a lot of people are willing to do right now, and that is officially admit that Gardner-Johnson is not coming back. We just did that, but let's try and find a solution. I think that's what Eagle fans need right now, because I don't know how your comments were, but my comments were like uber depression. Like, how can we let CJ Gardner-Johnson go? The Eagles are going to be trash next year. What is Howie doing? This is not the direction that we need. Like, literally, I would say 90% of my comments were doom and gloom. And while I get it, it's hard to watch a young player going into the prime of his career, coming off of his best season, a Pro Bowl should have been season, just let him walk into free agency. But I think the plan is as follows, and correct me on any of this if I'm wrong. First off, I'm 99% sure Jason Kelce is coming back, and I'll give you my theory on that why. Jason Kelce had Howie Roseman on the New Heights podcast, him and Travis, like 4 days ago at the NFL Combine. Howie Roseman was on Good Morning Football, and he was talking about how, I'm going to do the New Heights podcast today. That was 4 or 5 days ago. They have not released the New Heights podcast yet. That's not normal for them. They would have normally released it by a couple of days after filming, right? That tells me that Jason Kelce will announce either he's coming or he's going away into retirement on the podcast. I think he's going to say on that podcast with Howie Roseman there, I'm coming back for one final season. If that's the case, you have to pay Jason Kelce. Jason Kelce will demand $14-15 million for a one-year deal. That's where the money initially is going to go. That's why they couldn't franchise tag CJ Gardner-Johnson. If Kelce was retiring, they would have franchise tagged him and paid him the $15 million average for the top 5 at his position. That's my first theory. So one, you see CJ Gardner-Johnson go, Jason Kelce comes back. I'm going to ride that conspiracy theory until it dies. After that, I think they love Reed Blankenship. I think they're going to try to re-sign Marcus Epps. And if they can't re-sign Marcus Epps, they're going to draft a safety at number 30 or number 10 overall in the first round. And boom, you might have a lesser secondary, but it's not going to be a trash secondary. This isn't going to be a garbage secondary. If you could tell me right now, Philadelphia would land one of the top cornerbacks at number 10, Witherspoon, Porter Jr., the kid from Oregon, and then get a safety or a defensive lineman like Cansey was mocked. I saw that you did that. Cansey was mocked to the Eagles at 30. The guy out of Pitt who's compared to Aaron Donald, in McShay's mock draft at 30. If you were to tell me you get to keep Jason Kelce, you get a cornerback, a number 1 cornerback at 10, and you get either a safety or a defensive tackle at 30, I think a lot of Eagle fans would go, okay, it's not ideal, but we'll take it. And I think that's the exact way that we're going right now.
Yes. Yep. I'm totally with you. I think that's exactly where we're headed. I think, like you just said, it's not the ideal situation or scenario. I don't think that hardly any of us would cheer or root for that. But the next best option, and what you can start seeing now is, I mean, Howie is obviously always thinking 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. So he's got the whole compensatory pick strategy on his mind. It's like, okay, once he figured out I can't keep everyone, it's like, okay, who can we really afford to let walk? And while I would argue that letting CJ Gardner-Johnson go is not really the person to let walk, he obviously feels differently. And you could say, well, it's a deep draft in terms of corners, in terms of defensive backs, safeties. You have some potential there. But let's just face it, the next season is going to be dictated by how the offense plays. Like the defense, sure, there's going to be some, okay, they got to play good enough or well enough, but like the brute of the burden is going to be on the offense. They're going to have to be putting up 30 points a game, and they could and should be able to do that. You're going to have most all of the pieces. And you mentioned Jason Kelsey. I agree. I think he is going to come back. I can't wait till they actually drop that episode. But I think that he will either announce it then, or it'll be not long after that to begin with. So the offense is going to be fine, but it'll be interesting to see. You've got a new defensive coordinator. You still got some assistants that you need to hire. You've got a bunch of gaps and holes to fill that hopefully are in the draft, but it's going to be new young players most likely. So learning a new system, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I'm comfortable or excited about that,
Yeah.
but I'm also not going to say, hey, you know what, the world's ending, let's just burn it all down. We're going to be terrible. That's not going to happen. But yeah, there's a lot of unknowns on the defense for sure.
Well, and a lot of people are in the comment section right now, and we will read comments and super chats and everything that comes in are saying that, we were fine. Philly Eagle fan says we're screwed. Some people are saying compensatory picks next year don't win you football games this year. We have to accept the fact the defense will be slightly worse. But at the same time, as Josh just said, if you hit on 2 of your 5 draft picks this year, if 2 of your 5 draft picks can start for you instantly, you're also getting Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean, who are basically free agents who barely played this past season, even Jordan Davis, who are going to take on a bigger role. The defense will be younger, but it's not to say it's going to be that much worse. And I agree. The offense is going to have to win you football games. And guess what? They should be able to. There's no reason why they shouldn't be able to do that. But let me just give you my main reason why I'm confident Philadelphia winning a bunch of games this coming season. It's really, really obvious. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Let's look at the NFC conference going into 2023. Okay, the San Francisco 49ers, very big threat. They can't figure the quarterback spot out. Does anyone think the Minnesota Vikings are going to have a better year than the Eagles in 2023? Anybody in the chat right now? No. The Bucks, Kyle Trask is going to win you the NFC conference? No. Do you believe in Dak Prescott? No. Do you believe in Daniel Jones's $40+ million a year? No. Do you think Geno Smith was like the Giants do, and we will talk about that. Do you believe in the Seattle Seahawks and Geno Smith, who just signed into a new deal, but also said that won't deter them from drafting a quarterback? No. Lions will be pretty good. Sure, I like the Detroit Lions. Are they winning the NFC conference? No. Is Sam Howell and the Commanders winning the NFC East? No. Is Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers going to win the I mean, come on. Like, where is the scary team on this list? Seriously, where is it? And if you want to say Derek Carr and the Saints, sure. But it's also Derek Carr and who? Alvin Kamara has a bunch of legal issues. Michael Thomas hates the organization. He's not going to be there, nor can he stay healthy. I mean, seriously, we can talk about how bad, quote unquote, the Eagles are going to be defensively, but how bad is this entire conference? I'm not saying the Eagles win 14 games this coming year. What about 12? What about 12? 12 wins the NFC East. 12 gets you a home playoff game. 12 makes you the 2 seed or the 3 seed. I mean, can we not expect them to go back to that point? I think so. And that's a 2-game difference in terms of the loss column from where they were this year, which a lot of people are saying is a reality. I just don't believe in the NFC East or the NFC conference as a whole to think that, oh, you lose CJ Gardner-Johnson and Javon Hargrave, we're going to win 9 games. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with you. We've talked about it before, and yeah, the NFC is the weaker conference, and I'm curious to get your thoughts as we get going here later on down the line. But the whole Lamar Jackson saga. See, I look at that list whenever you list that out, and yeah, I'm totally with you. If you're any of those owners, if you're any of the head coaches, you're looking at it and saying, this conference is up for grabs. And Philly is definitely the top team or one of the top 2 teams in the conference, even with the defensive, hey, you know what? Okay, let's say that we're going to scrap all of the premier defensive players. Let's say we're not going to re-sign them. That still doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
But like you just alluded to, it's a weak conference and it's up for grabs. So I'm shocked to transition. I would love to get your take on this because, again, I know it's been going around circles, but Lamar Jackson, then the Ravens signed him to a non-exclusive tag. That to me seems ridiculous. But if you're any of these teams here, I mean, could you see, is there a specific team in the NFC, the list that you just had up of, hey, you know what, we're going to come get him? And I know it's crazy because we've seen reports of teams, taking a look after an hour that it was released of saying, nope, no interest, none at all. And this is a league MVP.
I know.
Are you kidding me? We're that quickly, we're going to decide, nah, we don't want him. But I was curious to get your take and see, do you see him going anywhere in particular? Is there a team you think might be out to grab him?
If I was going to pick a team, if I had to pick a non-Raven football team, it would be the Atlanta Falcons. I live in Atlanta. They went all in on Deshaun Watson. I talked to people who said the Watson deal was officially done until the Browns said, hang on, how does $250 million guaranteed sound? And then Deshaun said, oh, we'll go over here. Like, he was going to be an Atlanta Falcon. And I was very plugged into that organization, at least more so than I am now. I'm not saying it was like an insider, but I was talking to people and they said it's done. And then it suddenly wasn't done because he went over to Cleveland. Atlanta has the money. They have a fan base starving for relevancy. They haven't sold out Mercedes-Benz Stadium in years. I mean, I've been to that stadium a lot living in Atlanta. No one goes to those games because the Falcons have been so irrelevant, and they don't really like Desmond Ridder. They can say they like Desmond Ridder. They don't really like Desmond Ridder. So if I was Atlanta, I would have done it yesterday. I would have been like, oh, I mean, what? I think the unexclusive franchise tag is $35 million a year. You tell me Atlanta wouldn't give up, number 8 overall in the draft, a first in 2024, and $39 million to sign Lamar Jackson? I don't know why they haven't done that. But there is a reason why teams are hesitant to sign Lamar Jackson. It's not because he wants some massive contract. It's not because he's often injured. It's because of these numbers. And these numbers were pointed out like 30 minutes ago by Brandon Lee Gouton of Bleeding Green Nation on Twitter. Lamar Jackson's playoff numbers: 1-3 starting record, 4 total touchdowns, 7 giveaways, 68.3 passing average. The Ravens scored an average of 13 points in those starts. 2 losses came with home field advantage, and he's been unavailable due to injury down the stretch in 2021 and 2022. That's why teams are not interested in Lamar Jackson. It's not that they don't want him. They don't want him for what Lamar Jackson wants him or wants to be paid for. Lamar Jackson wants to be paid $45+ million like every other quarterback apparently wants to be paid. But teams have seen this all-in guaranteed money that went to Deshaun Watson to give you no success on the football field. And they said, hey, I can't do that. And if you don't have the stats to back it up in the postseason, like Lamar Jackson does not at this point, you can't argue that. They're hesitant to give him $45 million a year and tie their franchise to someone like that for the next 4 or 5 years. And it's not an anti-Lamar Jackson rant, but I can't stand watching all these national media pundits come out there and pretend like Lamar Jackson is greater than Patrick Mahomes, and yet for some reason, no one wants to sign him in the National Football League. It must be a lot of idiots in GM front offices. People aren't dumb. GMs aren't stupid. Sometimes they make bad decisions, but the majority of them are pretty smart. I mean, come on. I don't know. I think he's going to stay in Baltimore. Some of them, sure.
Some of them.
There are Giants, bad moves all the time.
$40 million to Daniel Jones.
Yeah. See, now that one, you could have made an argument. Why not give a little bit more to Lamar Jackson, and then Lamar and Saquon and that giant offense would have been a lot better. It's not an anti-Lamar rant. I'm not trying to be anti-Lamar. I just don't think Lamar's a top 5 quarterback in this league. I think he's borderline top 10, but he has 0 playoff success in 4 starts. He's done nothing. And you go, where do we want to actually put our money in flashy regular season wins or postseason victories? And I think everyone and their mother would say postseason victories. It's that simple with Lamar.
Yep. That's where it's at. Obviously you make your hay in the playoffs. I'm going to be shocked if there's not an offer for Lamar. I know that he's wanting all this guaranteed money, but yeah, if you're any of those teams in the NFC. So that's why I was just bringing it up, because yes, the NFC is completely open besides Philadelphia, and you could say maybe the 49ers, Cowboys, possibly, like that's it. There's not a lot of teams. It's not a huge, terrible gauntlet to go through, but I think you're going to add one other team. I really think that a team will get Lamar, and it may be in the AFC, but to me, it seems like the NFC teams have more to risk and more to possibly gain. The risk reward is higher or better for those. So I'll be curious to see where he goes. You could always make the argument too, like, the Ravens didn't necessarily surround him with the best supporting cast. Let's be honest. Now, again, he didn't have a great playoff record, doesn't have a great playoff record. So I'll give you that. And he's injured. There's always risk, but I don't know. He's a guy. If I'm one of the other GMs, I would definitely consider taking a risk on him. So we'll see.
Where do you think he goes if you had to put money on it?
You know, I keep saying, and I may be completely wrong, but I keep thinking Washington is just
That would
sneakily
stink. That
hiding
would
and
stink.
being like, no, we're not interested in a
Right.
quarterback at all. We're gonna go with Sam Howell. Are you serious? You're really? I mean, this is just okay. Just punt another season, then basically, So I don't know. I could be totally wrong, but that would scare me to death. Of them going and get Lamar and just making things a little bit more competitive, especially within the division. So we'll see. At the moment, that's what I would throw out there. I have no valid reasons to
Right.
believe that it'll be Washington other than like speculation or rumors, which is where we hear probably about everything of every single team. So there's no official report, but I think I would say Washington at this point.
I'll go out on a limb and say Washington's a quarterback away. The roster is fantastic. If you take away Dan Snyder and the absolute dump that FedEx Field is, and the historical garbageness in the past 20 years, the Washington franchise, and you put a good quarterback there, they have a solid coach, they have a solid head coach, a solid coaching staff in general. They have a really, really good offense. They have receivers, they have running backs. The offensive line is not bad. They have defensive players. Like, they're stacked everywhere if they can get the quarterback, which I think ties back into my whole idea on Lamar Jackson. How many quarterback needy teams are out there right now? We're talking about the Bucks need a quarterback. You can make the argument the Carolina Panthers obviously need a quarterback. The Atlanta Falcons need a quarterback. The Rams, depending on what happens with Matthew Stafford, although sure, not yet. The Texans need a quarterback. The Colts need a quarterback. The Raiders need a quarterback. The Jets need a quarterback. Like, how many teams was that? Like 9? And we're talking
Yep.
about, in the media's mind, a NFL MVP can't find a place to land. You're telling me there are 9 franchises who are desperate for quarterbacks who, for whatever reason, don't want an NFL MVP. There's more to it than just this idea that NFL owners don't want Lamar Jackson because they're mean and they don't know what's good for them. There's got to be a reason, because a lot of teams need an NFL quarterback. And you're telling me if Josh Allen or Justin Herbert was just unexclusively franchise tagged with a chance to go sign somewhere else, these teams would also not be lining up to sign him? It's a little different. It's a little different. And I like Lamar. You can win games with Lamar. Like you said, you put Lamar in the Eagles, Lamar can win some games. But is Lamar going all the way to the Super Bowl this year? I don't know. I don't know.
Probably
Okay,
not.
quickly comments here. We have a lot of people. Hang on, let me scroll up here a little bit. Eagles said it was a team and not Hurts this year. This theory will be tested. True, but the team is still going to be good. We're acting like we're going from the 2020 team back to the 2021 team, whose leading receiver was like Quez Watkins and a bunch of other no-name players. No, we are going from a 2022 team that was one of the most stacked teams we've ever seen in Eagle history to a slightly less stacked team in Eagle history. So, sure, it'll be a little worse, and sure, you'll have a first-place schedule, but this whole idea that we're going to stink is just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I just don't buy it.
Yeah.
Minimum, they win 11 games next year. Minimum 11 games. That's the floor for the current roster as constructed, not hitting on any of your first-round draft picks. You hit on first-round draft picks, all bets are off.
Yep, I agree. I think so too. That's got to be. I was curious if they've already posted. I know sometimes they do, but Vegas for the wins
Yeah, what is
total
it?
over under. I can't seem to find it. If anybody knows, post it there on the chat. I'm trying to look it up.
They
But
might. I don't even know if they have. Surely
they may not
they gotta
without
have it.
the free agents and draft and everything else. But I would think that they would have already posted it.
Yeah. Nelly says Eagles are done. Eagles not winning 12 games. Have fun betting against that, Nelly. Dank says okay. ESC1 football, Jalen Hurts' last market value calculation for a contract extension is 6 years, $265 million, $44.2 million per season. That'd be a discount. Anything under 45 is a discount for Hurts at this point. Just based on the market, it's a discount.
Completely.
Let's see. We will also have the hardest schedule next year. Okay, hang on. Let's just pull up the Eagles schedule, because I get that comment on my show all the time. But the Eagles schedule, it's so hard, and there's no way they're going to win all these games. Okay, here's who. Okay, you play the division. You play the Rams, who are nowhere near what they used to be. You play the Patriots, not that good. You play the Jets, who could have Aaron Rodgers and be pretty good. Okay, that's a tough game.
I feel like he's
Cowboys,
going to be there.
yeah, I do too. For sure. Cowboys, Giants, get Cardinals. We think Jonathan Gannon's going to win at the Linc. I don't. 49ers, sure, that's a good team. Bills, sure, that's a good team. Dolphins, sure, that's a good team. But then you have Seattle. Does Seattle scare us? Does Minnesota scare us? Do the Bucks scare us? No. Does Kansas City scare us? Yes. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll throw the Jets in for 5 non-divisional games that are quote unquote difficult. So if you win half of them, how many losses are we at here? Like, I mean, this whole idea we're going to get rolled by just because our schedule is tough, it's just insane.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if I had to pick right now, I would be right in the same boat. 12 games, maybe 11, even if you want to say, okay, even a little bit of a hiccup here or there as you're getting the defense, because I think the only thing that's going to maybe, I don't know, stall this thing a little bit is in the beginning of the season. Sure, let's say you have a bunch of defensive players, a little bit inexperienced. They need to get some games under their belt, start figuring out the defensive system and everything else there. Okay, maybe you slip up in a few early on, and then you start hitting your stride late in the season. So I think 11 is the floor. I really can't see losing any more than that. I think 11
Yeah,
wins is the lowest that you'd be. That's my thought.
I would agree. Let's quickly talk about internal free agents because people are really worried about that sort of thing. If you're just joining us, Josh and I both just said CJ Gardner-Johnson, he's gone, barring some sort of crazy Hail Mary that I will immediately sing to the heavens and then announce on my show that I'm an idiot and know nothing about football because I keep telling you that he's gone. He's gone. Fletcher Cox is for sure gone. I mean, that is a Fletcher Cox for sure gone. James Bradbury for sure gone. If I had to guess, and I think I said this today on my show, my guess would be BG comes back because there was a report from Howard Eskin saying, yes, you covered that on your show today. I would bet that they're going to sign 2 more of these guys. And it's a combination of the remaining 3 players, Epps, Boston Scott, and TJ Edwards. That would be my guess because all those players are quote unquote cheap. All of them are at positions of need, and all of them have become undrafted free agents who became starters and actually showcased their worth in the end. So I would say BG. If I could pick of those, I would go BG, I would go Marcus Epps, and I would go TJ Edwards. If I had to pick between the 3, but if you went BG, Marcus Epps, and Scott, BG, TJ Edwards, and Scott, that to me is probably the best that they're going to go ahead and be able to do. Now, that doesn't count other free agents, which we can talk about. I will do a show tomorrow about some cheap free agent options. There's plenty of them. But if I had to guess the internal guys, those 3, BG, TJ Edwards, and the combination of Scott or Marcus Epps are going to come back to Philadelphia, which shores up a safety spot if you believe in Reed Blankenship, shores up middle linebacker because you have Nakobe Dean on that outside linebacker, and gets you another running back alongside Kenny Gainwell, plus a backup pass rusher to roll alongside 2 of the best ones in the league in Sweat and Reddick.
Yes. Yep. No, I think the same thing. And I mean, here I am. I'm going to try to just spin it as a glass half full, but at least you got to get Blankenship some experience. I mean, it's not like he didn't play at all. I'm not saying that he was CJ Gardner-Johnson, but he 5
Right.
games. So, and he played well. He didn't make terrible mistakes. Again, I'm not saying that he covered and played the same level of CJ Gardner-Johnson, but I think you've got something there. I like the idea of re-signing Marcus Epps. I know that I don't know if you covered it or I saw it somewhere, but they were talking about he's getting a lot of interest around the league.
Too.
There's a potential interest. So I think Jacob Sports had a segment on that too. So I mean, he's getting a lot of interest. I don't know if that means how he's going to say, yeah, maybe not because his stock's going up. But I would like to re-sign Marcus Epps, and then I'm kind of with you too as you're looking at the list. Boston Scott, I think that would be great. You've got the chemistry already. We got Kenny G, Boston Scott, re-sign someone else. Rumors have been circulating again around Miles Sanders. I know there was hey, he's not going to, but then I just saw recently, who was it? It was on, I think it was actually another segment on Jacob Sports. Who was that? Let me see. But they were saying there's a realistic possibility now. They think that it's been flipped. The Mike Gill show believes there's a chance for Miles Sanders to be back with the Eagles based on kind of what's transpiring here. I don't know what exactly he's getting at and where that's going to, but
yeah,
I think that, his Miles Sanders stock has gone up and he played really well. He could get a big contract. I don't see, especially with what's happened now of Howie doing that. But again, you got to re-sign some people. So I think Boston Scott makes perfect sense there. And then we'll see. You mentioned some other targets. I'm curious to see maybe or hear who's on your mind is who Philly should consider. Do you have that list, or are we waiting for tomorrow's show?
Well, it is for tomorrow's show, but I will give some names. But I do want to quickly comment on Sanders here. Everyone would take Sanders back for the right price. I think the Eagles are the exact same way, but they have to get to that right price. They were not going to pay $9+ million a year for a running back. Howie Roseman would never do that. I mean, literally ever in his entire career is he going to pay a running back that much money. And so the Eagles' hope for bringing back Sanders is he goes to the free agent market. He sees that there's no team that's going to pay him out the wazoo because I mean, come on, there's always draft running backs. We talk about them every single year. There's like 9 in this draft that are really good. He understands that, hey, I can make $2 more million a year and play for a crappy team, or I can make $2 million less a year, or the same amount, whatever you want to call it, and play for a potential Super Bowl team. That's the kind of stuff that Miles Sanders will have to go ahead and go through. This isn't Javon Hargrave, who's going to be offered $7 million more than the Eagles could possibly give, right? I mean, that's an easy money. But if it's like $1.5 million more, but you're going to go play in, I don't know, Houston, it's like, what do you want to do? I mean, how much is $1.5 million? That's a lot of money
he
for
loves
us.
Philly enough for that. He already said he loves Philly. He's like, I hope you love me too. Well, how much do you love Philly?
I totally agree. I did see a question here. We can move over here to potential free agents for Philadelphia. I'm going to get the full list on the show. I will be honest. There are some position groups that have plenty of options, like running back, and there are some position groups that have very few options, like linebacker. And someone a little bit earlier mentioned Bobby Wagner or Eric Kendricks on one-year deals. I think this is not the offseason to throw money at old, veteran players. They did it last year very selectively. And I'm very like Kazir White's not old, but he's a veteran player. Selective 1-year deal. Like they Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, old selective 1-year deal. This is not the offseason to do these old selective 1-year deals. What they will do is try and find guys on cheap minimum contracts, $1, $2, $3 million a year, 2 years, $3 million, who can come in and compete and maybe be elevated by the teammates that are around them. And I like Bobby Wagner, but this is not Seattle Seahawks Legion of Boom Bobby Wagner. This is still an elite player, but an elite player that will let you down because mentally you want him to perform like Bobby Wagner of 2013, but it's Bobby Wagner of 2023, and it's very different. So I'm out on Bobby Wagner, and I hate saying that because I wanted Bobby Wagner 10 years ago, but that's the problem. It was 10 years ago. And I think Eric Kendricks will probably demand too much money. The Eagles, if they re-sign TJ Edwards, are fine at linebacker because we all believe in Nakobe Dean. But if they don't re-sign TJ Edwards, I'll be very curious to see what kind of linebacker they're going to go ahead and get. So I think you would agree.
I think TJ Edwards is the perfect situation. He's the perfect fit. You really have to re-sign him because, if you're looking at, and you brought it up too, but Nakobe Dean, I mean, I think that they play together perfectly, and TJ Edwards already knows, granted it's a new defensive coordinator, but it's some of the similar guys. There's not a ton. I know that there's a lot that'll be leaving probably, but like you just mentioned too, the linebacker market is either very pricey if you're going after the free agents, most of them that we've seen, and you mentioned there, or the draft. It's not the best draft. I'm not saying it's an awful draft for linebackers, but based on the mock drafts, the scouting reports, everything we've seen and heard, it's probably not the best draft for linebackers. So if you're looking at that, I don't think that you say to yourself, oh, let's try to hit on a linebacker too that's going to start from day one, especially if you can get TJ Edwards for a relatively team-friendly contract, which I think that you can, then he'd be the way to go. So I agree with on that.
I see some housekeeping here. Someone's asking, Flying High says, are we muted? He's watching on his TV. For whatever reason, YouTube, the app on the TV, makes my show sound a lot quieter than it actually is. I just double checked it. We're coming out normal on phones and computers. So TVs, you got to turn them up. I don't know why. Sorry about that. Also, thumbs up the show. And then let's get Josh Davis, Philly Special Show, to 1,000 subs. He's at like 700. We're
Appreciate that. Yeah.
We're very
just
close.
Over 700. Yep.
But he should be at, he should be at 1,000 subscribers. He had a 10,000 view video the other day, which is crazy for anybody in this sort of situation. So subscribe to Josh. We do this every single Wednesday, the Wednesday Linc, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Be sure to go ahead and subscribe to him and thumbs up the show. That way it can be found elsewhere. And I'm going to do a little shameless pitch here. I have a pretty cool little thing running right now with the TFM guys, my March Madness Challenge League, which is a sports betting league, kind of. And I've tried to explain this on my show as best I can. It's through this app called the Viget app, which is fantasy sports betting. And so to get into the Viget app, you just have to go ahead and sign up for one of the 4 draft partners or betting partners you see on your screen. Place a bet, send us your betting slip to jeremy@savageventures.com, get you into the league. Each person that joins my league right here, which is down below in the description box, we add $50 to the pot. It's going to be a big pot, and the top 10 people are going to get a share of the money. So jump in on this action if you're in a legal betting state. It's all explained on the link down below in the description box, so jump in on that. Okay, housekeeping is over. Let's move over here to some questions and comments, and then we'll talk about potential free agents. Let's see here. We need BG, backbone of the defense. A lot of people are saying don't sign Brandon Graham, put the money towards CJ Gardner-Johnson. That's not how the money works. CJ wants $15+ million a year. He deserves it. And he probably wants 17 or 18 to be one of the highest paid safeties in the league. BG will take like 7, maybe 6. and he had double-digit sacks last year, and he plays that legendary Chris Long role of rotational pass rusher. BG signing him makes a ton of sense. If you weren't going to sign him, you still can't use that money on CJ Gardner-Johnson. So I don't understand this. Well, if you sign BG, you could have signed CJ Gardner-Johnson. It doesn't work that way. It's not the same amount of money. BG proved last year he still has it. Like someone just said right here, he's the backbone of the defense. I'm totally fine with signing him, even if that means CJ Gardner-Johnson walks.
Yep. I'm with you too. And again, there's a lot of things to come from this, but like you mentioned, I mean, BG realizes he's on the end of his career. He wants to play 2 more years. That's it. He's a big Philly guy. He announced on the podcast with Rodney McLeod, he's like, I'd love to stay in Philly. And it's not like, granted, you could say, hey, he had a great year, and he did. He had a phenomenal year last year, but you're not grading him as like a 3-down defensive end. You're grading him as a rotational player. So you're going to pay him as a rotational player. So I'm sure he also knows and aware from his agent, like his market is a little bit less than if you look at just his production, because he's not going to play every single down. So I think it's something that the Eagles are definitely, I know it's not a for sure done in, signed or anything, but next week I will be shocked if BG's not back in Philly. He lives in the area. I think that'll get done.
Totally agree. Yep. I think 100%. Flying High fixed his TV issue. Okay, that's great. Our linebackers can't cover. I think Kazir White had one of the best linebacker cover grades in the National Football League last year, and Nakobe Dean for sure can cover. So not worried about that. 0% chance the Eagles pick 2 first rounds without any mid-round picks. They're going to trade back at some point, whether they trade back, a couple of picks in the first round and get a second-round draft pick, but still stay in the first round. That's what I think they do. Maybe 10 to 13, and then maybe come up from 30 to 22, whatever it is. But how he's going to make trades. If you could bet your entire life savings on will the Eagles make a draft day trade, you would do it because they will. Well, I'm not a betting expert, so don't.
I would not ever recommend betting your entire life
I wouldn't
savings,
either.
But
I'm just saying.
Yeah, if you're forcing me to make a bet, I'm going to say absolutely how he's going to trade for draft picks.
Thomas, Daniel says, Thomas, how do I join? I live in Augusta, Georgia. Unfortunately, the Vacant League is only for people in legal betting states because it's just how it is. So
that
sorry.
Hurt me too.
I know. Yeah, because Josh would have been in it, but Josh is in Texas.
Yep.
0% is okay. I already read that one. Brandon Brooks is still on the Eagles payroll. $9.8 million dead cap hit. Yes, he is. It stinks. A lot of teams have this happen, and it's not Brandon Brooks' fault. Often injured. When they gave him that long-term deal, we all said it was a good thing, but what are you going to do? Jackson Smith and Jiba at 30, the wide receiver out of Ohio State, Smitty in the slot. I like that any other year but this year because we don't have enough picks to be spending on first-round wide receivers. If we had 10 picks, sure, but we don't need a receiver, at least a receiver 3, that bad to take a guy like Smith and Jiba, who's a beast, but
yeah, we don't have the luxury for that, nor do we have the luxury for Bijan Robinson either. So I know that's something that continues to be brought up.
Don't say that,
what
Josh.
Should we do? But
no,
there's not. Let's face it. If you want reality, there's not the luxury to get Bijan Robinson. Even if you trade back, even if you get multiple draft picks, I don't think you have the luxury this year to do something like that.
You can't say that because we want Bijan Robinson. Every Eagle fan no, don't say that. Although you're right. Whenever people ask me about Bijan Robinson, it's a very simple response. Have you ever seen Howie Roseman make a pick like that? Ever?
Nope.
A pick where it was like, here's this flashy superstar potential, game-breaking skill player, and the Eagles take him in the first round. Nope. Besides Devontae Smith at 10, which was probably the most, not shocking because they needed a receiver, but one of the most shocking moves that Howie Roseman has made when there were all these pass rushers and all these offensive linemen. Like, he doesn't do it ever.
Right.
And so unless he wants to just go like, hey, here's my playbook for winning championships the last 20 years. I've been to 3 or 2 Super Bowls during that time, or, well, the Eagles have, but, he's been to 2 now during his time. Let's just throw that out of here and take Bijan Robinson. That's why I don't think that they are going to do it, because Howie would have to be, on sort of some sort of a legal substance to actually make that pick on draft night, because if you know Howie Roseman, he's not going to do that.
Yeah.
At all.
No, he's not. You can guarantee that. So if you're talking about other bets to be made, there you go. He's not going to do it.
Dank Burrito says they can get a quality back in the second round. Exactly. And that's why you wouldn't, right? That's why you wouldn't.
Yep.
Quarterbacks average a 139 rating against Epps, which is terrible. He has 10% missed tackle rate, which is also terrible. I agree with that. But if you're desperate like we're going to be, you might need to take somebody who you at least know in the organization. I know Brian Branch from Alabama's name gets thrown around a bunch. Safety at 10 is weird to me, though. Like, he's got to be it's Minka Fitzpatrick type level. And I don't know if Brian Branch is Minka Fitzpatrick level. You know, if they trade back to 17 and take Brian Branch would make more sense. But they had a chance to take that safety out of Notre Dame last year, and they didn't. And he wasn't that good year one for the Baltimore Ravens. Kyle Hamilton, I think, was his name. I just don't know of how he values safeties that much. And he's proven it time and time again by not re-signing Brian Dawkins or giving him a long-term deal, by not, keeping Malcolm Jenkins, and by not keeping CJ Gardner-Johnson. You have to look at the history of the man running the Eagles, and he doesn't like running backs. He takes defensive linemen and offensive linemen early in drafts, and he doesn't re-sign safeties. That's what he does.
Yep. It's one in the trenches. I mean, for someone, he does do things unexpected, I'll give him that, but he's got a formula that works, and it's win in the trenches. So it's offensive line, defensive line. That's where I think that we're going to get the draft. I would love to see. I don't even know, and I really would hope that this is the case. But if at 10 he says, you know what, we're not trading back, we're going to select someone, I think that there's going to be a top corner available, whether it's Christian Gonzalez or Joey Porter, Devin Witherspoon. I would love to see him make that selection, but again, we know the guy, and I'm leaning towards it probably would be on the D line. Not that you have bad options there, but I just feel like you could wait until 30. And I feel like your return on defensive lineman is much better, or okay, to be like, oh, let's get our D lineman at 30 versus cornerback. I think those top 3 are going to go before 30. And then you're like, well, okay, we didn't get the top 3 cornerbacks. So now who are we left with?
Someone just said, what substance was Howie on when he drafted Rager? That's a great point. I don't know, but it was awful, and I would never take whatever he took. That's a good point. I forgot about the Rager pick. Besides the Rager pick.
That was a big mistake.
Yeah, goodness gracious. Let's see. What are we looking at here? Eagles want to make number 0 a legal NFL number. This is a sign they want Christian Gonzalez. There you go. You could really put your tinfoil hat on there. That's pretty good. I can't decide on the top 3 corners, Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon, or Joey Porter Jr. I think Twitter can't decide either. Each week, one of them is like the best out of all of them. This week, it's Christian Gonzalez. Last week, it was Joey Porter. The week before, it was Devin Witherspoon. I think it's going to be similar to the Devontae Smith draft, where you have all these great wide receivers, and any of them are going to be good. You'd like Jalen Waddle. You'd like Devontae Smith. Take your pick. This just seems like a great time to be needing a cornerback when you're in the top 10 of the NFL draft. They all seem fine.
Yep. I think as long as you get one of those 3, which is why, again, I would advocate for take them at 10, or if you can trade back, sure, 15, 16, 17. I don't know who might want to trade up at that point, but if you can get maybe multiple draft selections, one of them would still probably be available at that point. But any later than that, I think you're trading out of the spot, and then they're not available. So it'll be curious to see, but I'm with you. It's been flip-flop on who's the best out of those 3 every single week. And obviously with Christian Gonzalez jumping out of the gym and his time, I mean, he was phenomenal in the combine measurables. So that always gets extra hype. But obviously they're going to do their due diligence on tape and everything else. So I think probably Christian Gonzalez is the leader in the clubhouse at this point, but lots of time to go. So we'll see. We'll see who ends up moving up.
Let's throw up Ramos's chat here. I like this one too much not to throw it up on the screen. How far do you think Jalen Carter will fall? A lot of mock drafts, I think McShay's have him at 12 to the Texans.
He did, yeah.
Right? If he falls anywhere near Philadelphia, and we talked about this last week, and the character checks out, which Howie Roseman will do his due diligence, you really think Howie Roseman passes on Jalen Carter? There's no. I don't think he'll be there at 10. I think that he's going to get cleared of all this stuff. That's just a guess. I have no inside knowledge. But if he does, I don't see him getting to us at 10. But if you're telling me Howie Roseman has a chance to take his favorite position of all time, which is defensive line, or a corner, which he hasn't taken in the first round since Lito Shepherd, then let's just, again, you got to go tendencies.
That's a pretty easy pick. We are one of the
few organizations that have had the same GM forever, and he does the same thing every single year, and yet people are like, oh, but will he take Bijan at number 10? I think so. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, he's definitely not going to do that.
It's crazy.
I think it's for sure going to be, it could be defense, or if it's an offensive position, it'll be O-line. As boring of a pick as that would be my guess. If you're not going to go defense, it's going to be a crazy, hey, you know what, let's pick another O-lineman. But yeah, you're looking at it. I'm with you. I don't think that Jalen Carter is going to fall to 10. Who knows? Obviously, there's still more investigating, reporting, figuring out what's going on. But yeah, right now his current draft stock is having him fall. But I'd be shocked. I mean, just football ability alone. And again, I know there's a lot of other off-field stuff that you have to make sure and figure out before you pick him. But if it's all cleared up, I mean, he's back to the, either 1 or 2, I think. So if you got him fall to you at 10, I mean, you've hit the lottery and some.
Someone just asked, let's see, the questions are really good right now. Andrew B, who are your choices out of the top 10? I think that we can, let's see, hang on. Let me just get this on my screen. Let's give our rankings for defensive players. Well, let's give our rankings for non-quarterback players inside the top 10 right now, because I think we're going to be very similar. Again, non-quarterbacks, because quarterbacks are going to go very high just based on who we think is going to be the best NFL player. I think we all agree. And I'll go first. Will Anderson is one. I think he's a difference-making edge rusher, which is obviously what everyone wants in the National Football League. I think that you get all the way down, I got to find him. But I do think the next best player in this draft is Jalen Carter. And I think you could swap them, 1A, 1B. I think they're both really, really good. After those, then it gets a little bit interesting. But I would say Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher from Texas Tech, is number 3. I actually talked to a scout that I know yesterday, and I asked him who's the best player in this draft. He said Tyree Wilson. He said he's seen things from Tyree Wilson he hasn't seen from a pass rusher in a very, very long time. I believe the guy. Do with that as you will. So those would be my top 3 right now. I think you've got to put Anderson 1 because he comes from Alabama, Carter 2 because he comes from Georgia, and Wilson goes 3 because he was at Texas Tech. Not that that matters, but still, we're both Big 12 boys here who went to Baylor, but still. After that, then you got to rank the cornerbacks, whether it's Gonzalez, whether it's Joey Porter Jr., whether it's blanking on Witherspoon. Those to me would kind of be, your top 5, insert your cornerbacks. And then you start getting to offensive linemen. You start getting to maybe another defensive lineman. A lot of people love Kalijah Cansey. I am curious to see how high he goes. I remember I saw you did a show on him there. And then you get to skill players. So I think the pass rushers are always going to be number 1. And they just have been for forever. It's just how it works.
Yep. Because you don't exactly, and I guess you never know for sure with what you're getting in the draft. But I'd be curious on this. This is just me spitballing here, so I could be way off. But I'd be curious to know the percentages on how often does a big supposed prospect come out as a defensive lineman and not hit versus a quarterback. It seems like the quarterbacks that teams risk on is like, oh, they're a dud. Okay, that didn't work out. So and usually you have to trade more to get those players. So D lineman. I don't know. It seems like, I could be totally off, but it seems like the college success that they had transitions a lot better, and scouts are maybe able to hit on them more so of, hey, yes, they will transition to the league. But it'll be curious to see. I'm unsurprisingly not any differences. I think you could, with the off the field stuff, if you take that out, you could say Jalen Carter or Will Anderson, 1 or 2. I think you could flip those, but probably Will Anderson number 1. I don't think that any of the quarterbacks are worthy of, in my opinion, of the top 3 picks, but I think that you're going to have someone trade up and going to get them at number 2 or 3. I think you're going to see that happen for sure. But in terms of just skill set, I love Tyree Wilson. I know you were looking at him a second ago, but the wingspan, I mean, that's insane. 7'2". He's basically got the wingspan of Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I mean, you get that on your football. That's nuts. And I didn't even realize that, but he's even in the Big 12. But then whenever they mentioned in his wingspan getting the measurables, I'm like, that is a beast.
Let's do one more thing here with the draft, and I'll answer some more questions. You mentioned the quarterbacks. I'm going to emphasize this in a show later on this week because I think there's something in this draft called the Anthony Richardson effect, which is going to change the entire top 10. But you have to realize how fortunate Philadelphia is to be as close to the top as possible, because you're going to see 4 quarterbacks most likely go inside the top 10. 3 are guaranteed. There's a chance for Levis to come in and be number 4. And that means that Philadelphia gets one of the top 6 non-quarterback best players available, right? Bryce Young is going to go 1, whether he's a Colt, whether he's a Texan, whether he is a Bear because they lied to us about trading the draft pick, whether he's somebody else, he will go 1. Then you have this.
Which I wouldn't take him, by the way, just to put that out there.
As in, he's not the best quarterback in the draft,
I don't believe him. If I was going to take a quarterback, I wouldn't take him first. I think I agree with you. I think that he will go first off the board. I wouldn't take him.
Okay, hang on. GM Josh Davis, you need a quarterback. Which one are you taking in this draft?
If I'm taking one, I'm probably there's a huge pull to say Anthony Richardson, but I don't think so. He's an athletic freak, but I don't think that he's going to transition well with the accuracy. I know you could say Josh Allen, that was his argument, and look how that's panned out. But I would go with CJ Stroud. That's probably the boring pick, but I don't hate it. With his pro day and how he performed. I guess he's got a pro day coming up, but with how he performed in the combine for the passing drills, I think that he could transition better. That would be, I would feel a lot more comfortable about Bryce Young. I know he's an incredible player, but I'm sorry, the argument to be made about size, I know there's some success, but it's rare. It seems like a lot less often with someone of his size. So that would just be my take.
I don't hate it. I would still take Bryce Young first. But what CJ Stroud did in the Georgia game, you can make the argument he should have won that game against the closest thing to an NFL defense was pretty darn impressive. So look, there you go. There's two for sure. Someone is going to come between 3 and 5 and take Anthony Richardson. Vegas does it in McShay's mock draft here. You see the trade with Chicago if they already moved down. There's 3 quarterbacks, and then you have a very interesting 5
You got another
through
Jamarcus
9.
Russell for the Raiders.
Exactly. There you go. It could be. But then you have Levis here at 9. So there you go.
Yep.
4 quarterbacks off the board. Philadelphia would have their pick of the lot. And if Chicago takes an offensive tackle and Christian Gonzalez is gone here and Tyree Wilson are gone, then you're looking at the 4th best player in the entire draft of Philadelphia. I mean, we're talking about a chance to get an absolute stud superstar because of the quarterback drama that's happening right now. And it happens every year. Someone's going to move up. And I think Anthony Richardson looks too much like Josh Allen with Lamar Jackson speed for one GM to turn it down. Whether he turns out to be great or not, I don't know. But that literally is something to look forward to with Philadelphia. You're not picking 16th. You're not getting the 10th best player in this draft. It's not a quarterback. You're getting one of the top 5. One of the top 5 players in this draft, which is insane for people that keep complaining, oh, well, we're losing all these guys. Yes, we are losing all these players, but what if you replace Javon Hargrave, who's going to make $23 million a year when he signs a new contract with Detroit this offseason or Philadelphia? What if you replace him with Jalen Carter, who's making pennies on the dollar for that deal for the next 4 seasons? You put him next to Jordan Davis. It's like, wait a second, is our defensive line better than it was last year? Maybe. It's not much worse.
Could very
and
well
it's
be.
way cheaper.
Yep.
I mean, I get the doom and gloom this week. I really do. It stinks. I like CJ Gardner-Johnson. I like a really solid safety who puts his head down in holes, who gets interceptions. When was the last time an Eagle player get 6 interceptions in an entire season? Plus, he missed a bunch of games. The last for a kidney. You know, it's a Malcolm Jenkins style. It's the Brian Doc. I love it. But the idea that you lose him and we're going to be trash next year is something that I am desperately fighting against in the comment section because people went nuts this week and it seems a little too overreactive. The idea that Howie Roseman is now shocked. He's like, oh no, I'm losing all these players. How? And what are we going to do? It's like, oh my goodness, there's just no chance.
This was Howie's master plan. I mean, let's be honest. Again, maybe he was hoping that players are going to take some certain deals, but this is not a surprise. This is not like, oh shoot, CJ's not willing to come here for it. Oh, okay, well, I guess we better start coming up with a plan now. He's definitely had something going on. So it'd be interesting to see what they do there. But I mean, I'm with you. I think it just about couldn't set up better for the Eagles in this draft. I cannot wait for April. I'm so excited already to just see how that turns out. I think we're gonna be doing a live show, right? Live show, first round, second round,
probably first and second round for sure.
Yeah. So I'm going to be excited to see that because, like you just mentioned there, you've got 3 quarterbacks, probably 4. The one that I'm the most skeptical on is Will Levis. I hope and think that a team will trade up. Anthony Richardson, to me, I think that's a given. I think there's going to be a team just ready to jump out of their seat to trade anything and everything to get a next potential superstar. But Will Levis, I don't know. That's a question mark. But if you see, I'll just say it now, if you see 4 quarterbacks taken before Philly's pick, that is going to be fantastic. And whoever we get is going to be so much higher graded than where we're actually drafting them, that'll be a massive win. So I can't wait to see how that plays out. I will keep saying it here. I don't know if Khalid Kancey is worth the 10th pick. I don't think that he is, but I think 30 is so far back that you're not going to get him. So that's a player that I would love, but we'll see. I don't know where Jalen Carter falls. If you get him, then okay, you don't really have to get Khalid Kancey anymore. But I think that guy's going to be a beast too.
There's a very, I would say, sure and steady position group that performs really well as rookies. It's defensive line, it's cornerbacks, it's running backs, and it's offensive line. Those are the 4 position groups really that you can draft in the first round, instantly plug them in, and expect them to have starter-like impact their first year. It might not be Pro Bowl starter-like impact, but how many times have we seen Patrick Surtain get drafted in the top 10, instantly a baller? J.C. Horn pre-injury, instantly a baller. Jalen Ramsey, instantly a baller. This past year, how about defense? Maybe the best cornerback in the league, Sauce Gardner, instantly a baller. Pass rushers every year. Chase Young was a baller his first year. Aiden Hutchinson was great his first year. Nick Bosa,
Joey Bosa, yeah.
And what are the Eagles' position group needs? Our defensive line. They might get an offensive lineman. I wouldn't, but they might. They need a running back, and they need, what was the other one? A cornerback.
Mhm.
That's what they need. And so you're looking at them losing all these players, but then drafting players that could immediately have an impact. The two position groups that really don't do well their rookie year, in my opinion, you could make the argument for three. Safeties, normally rookie year, they don't, because it's a tough position to play in the National Football League. It's not like cornerback, which is, again, hard, but at least you know what you're doing. Safeties, a lot of things are going on. I think young linebackers don't necessarily play well because there's only one good one every single draft. He's great, and the rest are an absolute crapshoot. And wide receivers very rarely are good their rookie years. They've gotten better recently, but in NFL history, year two receivers are completely different than year one receivers. Devontae Smith was really good his rookie year. Year two, night and day better. I mean, it's like a different
Yeah.
player. And
Yeah.
that's why receivers, if you need one in the first round, you're going, okay, he's going to have an impact, but he's not going to be one of the better players on my championship level football team. It never happens that way. It's so rare. Atlanta tried to do it last year whenever they took the wide receiver, Drake London, like number, what was it, 6 overall, 7 overall? And it's like Drake London's going to be really good this year.
Yeah.
But he wasn't good enough his rookie year to make any sort of impact, and they needed him to do that because Atlanta had no receivers and a bad quarterback. So we're at least in a position with losing all these players where the people you're going to draft to replace them can be instant impacts players. And running back's another example. I mean, you can take a running back AP in the top 10, Zeke in the top 10. They'll go for 1,000 year one. Bijan will go for 1,000 year one if they did want to go that route.
Oh yeah, easily. No question. I mean, Bijan is going to have, unless injury, obviously, but he's going to have a phenomenal year. But yeah, you're right on with the position group. I mean, that's why I drafted Devontae Smith in my fantasy league and helped me win the league. So you draft the second year players.
Yes.
If you need some tips there, that's what I've always gone by. It seems to usually work for the wide receivers. But yeah, I mean, the position here. I know Jigba was brought up, but there's just certain positions that you don't really have the luxury of drafting. I don't think anyway. So wide receiver, running back, Bijan Robinson, like those are great players, and sure, they're going to have probably phenomenal NFL careers, but you don't need anybody. And honestly, hey, let's say that's a great position to be in. Like we don't need to reach and grab another running back or a wide receiver and say, hey, you know what? Even if he's the best one on the board, well, then see if we could trade back or something, because we've got two studs at receiver. Like there's only so many players we can throw the football to. We've got those. We've got Dallas Goedert. We've got, even if you want to say Calcaterra, I think could be in line to at least have a more productive season. So there's already too many mouths to feed on the offense. Let's just get the defense solidified.
I totally agree. 100%. Be sure to thumbs up, follow Josh Davis, or subscribe to Josh Davis's channel. We're going to go here for another 10 to 15 minutes. As we know, we get a little bit over an hour. We'll read some comments in a second. You mentioned my show tomorrow is looking at some of the bargain free agents. We can do a little, just a little peek into what I'm going to talk about tomorrow on the show. It mainly is, at least my idea on the show was, everyone's saying, okay, we're going to lose these big star players. Who can we get to fill their position group? So I went to Sport Track, and they have 2023, NFL free agents. They have every single position group, and they ranked them on how much money they made the previous season. And so you see guys at the top, for instance, linebacker here. You can't afford Bud Dupree. You can't afford Levante David. You probably can't afford Eric Kendricks, but who can you afford? And that was my whole idea of trying to find inside linebackers who make a lot of sense. And the first thing that I realized as I was doing the show or preparing for it for tomorrow is that there aren't any good inside linebackers. I mean, truly, like TJ Edwards is the best option for Philadelphia to play inside linebacker. And so you go, okay, maybe you make that a priority to re-sign him. But then you go to something like running back. We talk about Miles Sanders. Look at all these free agent running backs. Like, this is absolutely insane. And this is why, again, people talk about Bijan at 10. You can take Bijan at 10 and then, pay him $1 billion in 4 years. Or you go, because that's what you do, the whole Zeke thing. Or you go here. Jamal Williams made $3 million last year. Hey, Jamal, how does 7 sound? You can scroll down this list and see players who made no money last year who are going to make a little bit more, sure, but you're telling me you wouldn't want David Montgomery for $5 million on a 3-year deal? He made $1 million last year. He had 800 yards rushing and was injured a little bit. Can you imagine David Montgomery, who was a physical as they come, with potentially, breakout year Kenny Gainwell? Like, this is the whole point of the show tomorrow, is that there are so many of these guys who didn't make a lot of money last year, played very well, aren't worth double-digit million-dollar contracts, but could still be very impactful. And I'll give you the hint. My favorite player on the entire show tomorrow is this guy right here. You want a replacement wide receiver who's better than Quez Watkins? Mecole Hardman made $1.2 million last year. He was injured. He had a ankle surgery or whatever it was. He didn't play in the Super Bowl. You're telling me Mecole Hardman for $7 million a year would be a bad addition to the Eagles wide receiver core versus taking Jackson Smith and G with a 30th overall draft pick. Like, there are steals out there. A lot of them you can't afford, but some of them would make a lot of sense. And that's the whole point of tomorrow's show.
I love it. I'm looking forward to seeing all who you have listed there. But yeah, and the beauty again that we keep talking about here is, yes, you know what? Is it a disappointing day? Sure. We're disappointed that CJ Gardner-Johnson is gone, that the vibes of the team, the defense is going to be completely different. Let's be honest. It's a complete overhaul just about, but this is not unexpected. Howie Roseman has been thinking about this. He hasn't let anybody know, obviously, because this is shocking and surprising to pretty much everybody.
Right.
But this is a part of his plan. He's been looking at this for long term, saying, you know what, we're going to have to get Jalen signed. So what does that look like? And he's been crunching the numbers. He's been running all the logistics of it. He's been analyzing everything. And this is going according to plan. He figured out or knew, you know what, there's probably a lot of guys that we're going to have walk. So I am trying to find solace in the fact that, you know what, it's not a fire sale. This is not a panic move. This is a calculated risk. And the NFL, as we all know, is a business. So unfortunately, sometimes players do have to walk and leave, but we're going to be fine. There's lots of picks to be had. There's free agency coming up. Howie's going to be doing, like you mentioned, his due diligence to figure out what needs to be made. But I'm excited to see, because when Monday hits, when the negotiation timeline starts, there is going to be conversation after conversation of trying to figure out and piece this team together. And by Wednesday afternoon, we will have a much clearer picture of what holes have been filled. And then, okay, here's what we need to accomplish in the draft.
Howie went all in this year. The Eagles went all in for a Super Bowl. They didn't get it. But there's a difference between what the Eagles have done and what recent NFL teams that went all in have done and where they're currently at. The Rams went all in, and guess what? They won one. The Rams don't have a first-round draft pick till 2024. Philly went all in. They went all in last year, and they could potentially have $30 million in free cap space with some restructuring and have two young draft picks from last year who barely played become starters and two first-round draft picks. It's a big difference. We got to get to this. Matthew Bear with a $20 super chat. Matthew, you are the man. You are the top commenter tonight. I appreciate that right there. We'll throw it up on the screen. Great question. If CJ leaves, is it because Howie isn't trying to keep CJ, or is it because CJ doesn't want to stay in Philadelphia? I will answer that question very simply, but I want to go ahead and have some facts behind me as well. I got to think about this while I type. I think that it is neither. I 100% think it's neither. I think the issue is, and we'll throw it up on the screen right now, this list. This list tells you the highest paid safeties in the National Football League here, right? So as we look at this, Matthew, Derwin James makes $19 million a year. Minkah makes 18. Jamal makes 17. Harrison Smith makes 16. And Budda Baker, on a really cheap deal for how good he is, makes 14, right? So that means that somewhere between Derwin James and Budda Baker is where CJ Gardner-Johnson's agent is saying that's what my guy wants to be paid. So let's assume it's 17. That'd make him the fourth highest paid safety in the National Football League. Philly can't afford it. They simply cannot afford it. And I bet you the negotiations went like this. CJ, we love you. I want you back. The best I can do is 15. And CJ went, hey, man, I've been playing at an elite level in the National Football League for the past couple of seasons. I'm going to have a massive list of suitors that want me, and someone's going to give me $20 million this year. And $20 million versus $15 million is too big of a gap for me to stay. I love you guys. I wanted to stay. I get into business. Peace out. I'm going to go sign with the Atlanta Falcons, or go sign with the Raiders, or go sign somewhere else where they can pay him $20 million. I think it's probably a $5 million gap where they're at right now, which is too significant for a player, right? That's like, that's like your employer saying, hey, we can give you $10,000 more to work right here. Or someone else, a brand new employee, or a brand new employer saying, hey, we'll give you $30,000 more dollars. Like, in terms of, non-football player money, what everyone in this chat makes, most likely, including me and Josh, $10,000 versus $30,000 is basically what they're asking CJ Gardner-Johnson to do, and he just doesn't want to do it. It's money. It's 100% money, because both sides want to be there. They're too far apart.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, if you're talking about the difference, I think you're probably in the ballpark in terms of the numbers, 15 versus 20. So yeah, you're talking about a 25% discount. And please, if anybody would like to make 25% less than what they make currently, then feel free to keep sending some super chats or send me over some. I'll give you my Venmo after. But it's just, You know what? Good for CJ Gardner-Johnson, though, because,
Yeah.
yes, he's a fourth-round draft pick. He turned it into a phenomenal safety position play, and now he's going to get paid. And I don't think that he was wanting out of Philly.
Nope.
I know that Howie and the organization, it's not like they're blind or they're just putting their hands over their ears and saying, we're not listening to anything that Philly wants or that all the fans are vocalizing. They're seeing what people are saying. They're seeing that CJ Gardner-Johnson is a big loss, not just financially, but hey, what impact's going to have on the team emotionally? But it just didn't make sense. Dollars and cents, it comes down to it. And CJ Gardner-Johnson and his agent know that he can get a bigger deal somewhere else. So unfortunately, he's going to go there. I mean,
yep.
He's also got the gaming company that he's running. So, he's got some other areas of interest too, where he's probably trying to capitalize and make the most money that he can. And I can't fault him for that. I mean, in my career, in my job, I'm doing the same thing. Sometimes you're probably, I mean, who isn't? So you can't expect him to take a pay cut like that. I don't fault him.
And let's remember, CJ Gardner-Johnson wasn't drafted by the Eagles. He hasn't been an Eagle for 5 years. He didn't win a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Like, CJ Gardner-Johnson, this is literally his first season. He played, 12 regular season games with Philadelphia, 13 regular season games. The whole idea of like, oh, he loves Philadelphia so much, true, but he doesn't love it more than Brandon Graham does, who's been here his entire career. Like, there's just a difference here. And to kind of put a bow on Matthew's question, Matthew, I really appreciate that super chat. It really means a lot. When you look at the salary cap tracker, look at the money here. Like, this is insane. Chicago has $96 million in cap space for free agency.
Nuts.
That's insane. Atlanta has $70 million in cap space. Houston has 41. The Raiders have 40. The Bengals have $35 million. I would never have guessed that. Arizona, like, look at all of this money. You're telling me the Bears can't offer him $21 million for the next 4 years?
Yeah, so much more money.
Too much money.
And here we are. Make or break season for the Bengals.
Exactly.
They're going all in. I didn't realize they had that much, but you still
a lot of money.
Joe Burrow, those rookie contracts. That'll
a lot of money.
That'll benefit you there.
All right, let's see some more questions here. Remember when CJ Gardner-Johnson got his car stolen during the playoff game? Yeah, that'll do it. Move to a less carjacking heavy state. I don't know if Chicago and Atlanta are the right options there, though, if that's what you want. Oh man, the amount of Dodge Challengers that get stolen here in Atlanta on a daily basis is unreal. Trust me. If you move to Atlanta and you decide I want a Dodge Challenger, it's gone. Like you bought it for someone else because you're not keeping it.
You're not
insane.
Speaking from experience, are you?
No, I know multiple people that had Dodge Challengers and got them stolen. And I follow there's an Instagram account called, what is it, ATL Scoop, and it literally gives like all the different police reports, and every single car stolen, I'm telling you, is a Dodge Challenger. So CJ Gardner-Johnson, if that's what you like to drive, don't come to Atlanta.
Don't go to Atlanta.
Biggest problem with the plan, hoping Davis and Dean take the leap to starters. The road to purgatory is paved with hope. Okay, well, does anyone in the chat think Dean and Jordan Davis are going to be bad, though? I don't. I think they're going to be just fine.
I don't. Yeah, I think they're going to be great.
I think Jordan Davis was a little overwhelmed, but I think he also had way too good of serious players in front of him to the point he didn't get enough playing time. He had Javon, Hargrave, Fletcher Cox. It's like you're in your playoff games. Like, we can't make boneheaded mistakes here. Rookie, get out of the way. Here comes Javon Hargrave. He's like the best young D tackle in the league. Not young, but whatever. Niners, a.k.a. West Coast Cowboys. Geez, I've never heard that comparison, but it's pretty good because they were really, really good when Josh and I were babies, and they haven't been good since.
They can't get over the hump.
Nope. I saw this crazy stat. It was like how many starting quarterbacks Kyle Shanahan has had throughout his career, and it's an insane amount. It's weird to say the coach's system gets a quarterback hurt, but you go back to Robert Griffin III, who was his offensive coordinator. I think quarterback's coach or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it was Kyle Shanahan, right? I mean, the one place Shanahan's been where his quarterback didn't get hurt was Atlanta, and he almost won a Super Bowl. The rest of the places, the Niners have had a billion quarterbacks.
I did not. That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, hey, you know what? Having George Kittle block Hassan Reddick on a play is just
doesn't work.
Yeah, they found that out.
We learned that one out. Philly can't win a Super Bowl with a loaded roster and a weak-ass schedule. Okay.
Interesting.
Most only one team wins a Super Bowl every single year. We seem to forget that. I'd bring another cornerback, get rid of Slay and Cox. This whole Darius Slay hate, were you surprised by this? Because you talked about this on your show. It's like all of a sudden, Big Play Slay's like the worst cornerback in Philadelphia. He's too old and grossly overpaid, according to my chat.
I know. Yeah. I don't know if that's coming from, I mean, yes, we've talked about it before. He did seem to dip off a little bit, but let's not say that he fell off a cliff. It's not like he's giving up these massive plays or just always slipping in coverage or, athleticism is failing him. It's not like that happened, but I don't know if it was the fact of all of a sudden, hey, the rumors, because I heard it on WIP that they were talking about, hey, should you trade Slay and then maybe figure out a way to keep Bradbury instead, or now with the CJ Gardner-Johnson news, people are just, hey, let's get rid of him and then save that money and put it towards CJ Gardner-Johnson that way or whatever. But he's yes, there's some fear. I'll say that. I'm definitely afraid of what regression we might see this season because you don't normally see corners
Sure.
play well into their 30s. And I mentioned on my previous show, but Richard Sherman, Darrell Revis, like 31 is really kind of where you start falling off. So I get that, but I don't know if they officially did it, but I saw a report they're restructuring a deal with Slay. So I'm sure it's some sort of team friendly deal that's going to free up some cap space and everything on that side. But I think where the benefit will be, and we'll have to see, but I think where the big benefit will be is once the Eagles either draft a corner or if they get someone in free agency that's maybe a younger corner that needs a little bit of developing, Slay is going to be that vocal leader. He's a captain for a reason. And I think that maturity and that growth and be able to teach them the game is you will see if it's a Devin Witherspoon, if it's a Joey Porter, if it's a Christian Gonzalez, they're going to have a phenomenal first year. And I think that'll be a big part because of Slay.
Slay's
So I'm in favor.
I totally agree. Slay's entering the Fletcher Cox year of his contract. Remember, they cut Fletcher Cox last offseason and then re-signed him to a cheaper, more team-friendly deal to come back and do one last ride. And Fletcher Cox played very well. He played better than he had the previous 2 seasons. It wasn't elite Fletcher Cox. He didn't have 10-plus sacks, and he wasn't being doubled every single play because of how good he was, but he was very good and a leader on this defense, and he mentored Jordan Davis. That's what Darius Slay is going to do this year. He's going to take a team-friendly deal that's going to cut down his dead cap money or his cap money or whatever the term is. And he's going to be there to play very good veteran football, not as good as he has in the past. He probably won't be a Pro Bowler, but his job is to lock down one side, be a vocal leader, and get Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter Jr., Witherspoon, or insert other young cornerback ready to go to be the future of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's exactly what he's supposed to do.
Yep. Hey, let me ask you this as we're talking about Slay real quick. So I know the concept. We kind of hear the reports of obviously Jason Kelce having input on Cam Jurgens and the draft perspective. And you always like to get a player's perspective on, a potential future player to either replace you, how you're going to perform, things like that. Do you think you could see, I know it's all hypotheticals, but a situation where let's say the Eagles are going in, like we're going to target one of these 3 corners and they're asking Slay his predictions, his thoughts, have him watch film or whatever. Just curious there. Cause they did a little bit of that with Jason Kelce.
Yeah.
And I know some teams have done that in the past, but I haven't heard about that with corners too much. So curious if you think you could see them doing that.
That's a good question. It seems so rare for teams to actually go get input from their current players. Like the Kelce thing made every single major headline when Kelce said, yeah, they asked me and I told them that's the guy that I want him to get. Either it happens all the time and veterans are helping GMs make decisions in draft rooms, or it basically never happens because it happens all the time and they don't tell us, or it never happens. I just can't decide. And so I think the only person that gets asked those kind of questions from a player standpoint are either super veterans who are going to be Hall of Famers like Jason Kelce or quarterbacks. So I'd be shocked if they're even considering to ask Darius Slay his sort of input. I'd rather get Sean Desai's input. Sean, what do you want your corner to do? Because the thought process, Desai's going to be the coach of this defense for the foreseeable future. And so which cornerback do you want? Here's your 3 options. The beauty of this draft is there are 3. Take your pick and, let's ride. Whichever one fits best. And I'll be honest, I haven't watched enough, Illinois football, Oregon Duck football, Penn State football this year to tell you which one I think is better. Truly. I think I'm leaning Witherspoon. Although, that's
my pick. I'm leaning on him. I'm very close with the others, but if I had to pick today, I think I would say Witherspoon.
Yeah, I mean Gonzalez had an insane combine, but I think Witherspoon. But I just think everyone is going to be, fine with whoever they take, and we'll convince ourselves that they're a really good player. And again, Parlay just said Slay disappointed everyone at the Super Bowl. Are we forgetting that the leading receiver was Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes threw for less than 200 yards in that Super Bowl? He scored 31 points. Yes, but it's not like he shredded the secondary. Now, they couldn't get stops, and you can make a big case as Jonathan Gannon, and they lost the game. So we can, blame where blame is there. And Darius Slay would tell you didn't play his best game. But we didn't lose the Super Bowl because Darius Slay stunk. Not the reason.
Couldn't get a pass rush. The field was trash, and no adjustments from Gannon.
Rumor, the Browns have their sights on free agent CJ Gardner-Johnson ahead of free agency per Mary Kay Kabat. I think she's a very famous Browns reporter. I recognize that name. Browns would like to target a premium safety D lineman in free agency. The Browns have a bunch of money and they need to because Deshaun Watson ain't scoring them points. So
No, he's not. Yeah,
but
I
do you
think
want
you're
to
going
go
to
live
see
in
several
Cleveland?
Eagles. I think you could see several Eagles go to Cleveland. I know Schwartz has been rumored of kind of poaching some of the birds, so that'll be interesting to see who he goes after.
Cox may be back. His market won't be that great in free agency. Look for Milton Williams to step up. I don't think Cox is back. I think someone will pay him more than we will. But Milton Williams, it was a third-round draft pick that no one ever talks about because he's like the fifth best defensive tackle on our roster the past couple of years. I could see him getting a lot of playing time as well. I agree, 100%. He's big play Slay. He should have made a big play. That's where people. That's the big. Okay, I just think it's because we call him big play Slay, and he didn't have a lot of second half interceptions. That's why people think he fell off a cliff because the interceptions are what you notice as a cornerback because it's a passing league. Everyone gets thrown on, right? But you get picks, then you're an elite cornerback. That's why people think he fell off a cliff. Not because he didn't play well, because he didn't make the big play when the big play was needed, which you can make the argument true. He didn't, but does that make him trash? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough argument. I mean, again, he didn't play his best football towards the end of the season. Yes, he's big play Slay, but you have a lot of corners who are very good and that don't have actual interceptions. So it's I'd need to see it quite honestly because I don't know the targets off the top of my head, but first half of the season versus the second half and what the percentage of receptions allowed. I haven't looked that deeply into it, but again, I wouldn't say he was definitely not below average. I mean, he finished with a top 100 rating in the NFL for a reason. So he still played a good regular season, but I mean, I get it. Yeah. His nickname's Big Play Slay. We didn't see too much of that, but quite honestly, I mean, yes, outside of the Super Bowl, biggest game. Yeah. You could argue that he didn't really have to make big plays. The defense in general was playing fantastic. So I don't know. Yeah, it would have been great to see him do something in the Super Bowl, but I think with the way the field conditions were, it was always going to be tough with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. But you add on the field conditions, no pass rush, there's not much you could do.
Here's a crazy stat, which I just thought to look up here. Here's your leaders for interceptions last year. Let's count how many cornerbacks there are. Minkah, safety. Gardner-Johnson, safety. Justin Simmons, safety. Is Woolen a safety? I don't know. Is he a corner? I think he's a safety, right? I think Tariq Woolen of CL6 is a safety.
I think so.
Alexander's a corner. There's one. Deron Bland is, I believe, a safety. I could be wrong on that. Gibson is a safety. Peterson is a corner. I can't believe 95-year-old Patrick Peterson had 5 picks. Jalen Petrie, shout out Baylor. He's a safety. Harrison Smith, safety. Jesse Bates, safety. I mean, look at all these. Kevin Byard, safety. I think Von Bell's a safety. I could be wrong. Grant Delpit's a safety. Diggs is a corner. Rasul Douglas is a corner. Boy, we talk about developing after Philadelphia. Look at this. I mean, you talk about interceptions. League leaders aren't corners. It's very rare that Diggs from Dallas has like 10. Most of the time, your league leaders are cornerbacks. Is Tariq Woolen a safety or a cornerback?
He is.
He's a cornerback.
Yeah, he is. The chat saying that. I was checking it too.
What about Deron Bland? Is Deron Bland a safety or a cornerback? I wish you would tell me this.
Let's see here.
See, it says this is stupid. Most interceptions for cornerbacks. Justin Simmons is a cornerback. Minkah, I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah, he's a cornerback. It looks like Bland.
Okay. So we're still like 5-1 in terms of safety versus cornerback.
Yeah,
Bland is a corner. Diggs is a safety.
And at the same time, too, again, this is not like a given every single time either. But
No.
a lot of times, the players that are getting a lot of interceptions, if you also look at the stats, they're also giving up a lot of touchdowns because they're aggressive play styles. So it comes with the territory. Yes, you could be successful, but I don't always look at interceptions as to tell the full story. Yes, turnovers are great. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for interceptions on defense. But if you've got a guy that's looking to jump the route every single play, if your ratio is giving up 1 touchdown per 1 interception, then I would rather have a guy who's just going to have a lot of pass breakups because you're giving up too many scores.
I totally agree, 100%. I'm not saying that we need big play Slay to get less interceptions, but the idea that he's only good if he has tons of interceptions doesn't make a lot of sense at all. Quickly, I do want to mention, I want to hit this one more time. We'll do some questions, and then we'll go ahead and end. If you guys want to join my Fantasy March Madness Betting League, link down below in the description box. See, look, here's us right now in the chat. Just click the TFM page, takes you here. Follow the instructions, sign up, and join my TFM Betting League. It's going to be a bunch of fun. Get ready for March Madness. Who's winning the March Madness tournament this year, Josh? Is it our Baylor Bears? You can't say our Baylor Bears. Take your pick,
they're
though.
not. No. If someone wants an upset early, Bears are going to go out. Baylor's going to go out.
Jeez.
I think the second round. maybe not the first, but I think
You're
second
wearing
round.
a Baylor Bear national
I am.
championship hoodie
Yes,
right now. Let's just okay.
I'll always support Baylor. I'm just telling you my full honest truth here is the defense is terrible. So whoever's the underdog in a second game against Baylor, you might put a little something.
Do you
on
have a pick though on who wins March Madness? If you could
I
put
was going
money
to say
down,
UCLA, but their defensive player of the year, I just found out tore his Achilles.
Yep.
Was it tonight or yesterday? Something like
it was
that.
yesterday, I think.
Yeah, yesterday. I don't know. That was going to be my pick. Maybe Houston. I'd say they seem to be so close. They got a great defense. Maybe their offense finally. It seems like the offense always delays them. It always stops them. They get to like the Final Four, Elite Eight, whatever, and then they can't go further. But I think maybe this year could be Houston.
Crazy.
That's what I'll go
March
with.
Madness League down below in the chat. It's going to be a bunch of fun. And then, of course, you got to make sure you're subscribed to Josh Davis. I didn't put your channel in my description box. I'm just noticing here. So for those who have not subscribed, gosh, I got to pull this thing up here. Philly special show. If not subscribed to Josh, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. You have hit 700 subscribers, by the way. You're at 702. Congratulations.
Awesome.
Here we go in the chat. Boom. Everyone who is watching the show should go click in the chat right now and subscribe to Josh Davis. He's doing some really good stuff. And the numbers are insane. I mean, we got to brag on Josh a little bit here for just a second. He's had this show for his 16 videos. So 2 weeks. He's had the show for 2 weeks. We're looking at literally 500, 1.2, 1.2, 11,000, 1. These are insane numbers. He should be at 1,000 subscribers. Go ahead and subscribe to him. The link down below in the chat right now. Although I just took him off the screen. There he is. Okay. I was like, subscribe to Josh. Make sure you subscribe to Josh. Subscribe to Josh. There you go. All right. Questions here. We'll do it for like 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to hop off because I have a lot to do tonight. Favorite draft prospects. Andrew, we talked about that, but I think we all agree it's the defensive lineman. So obviously Jalen Carter and the guy from Alabama whose name is escaping me right now, and then the corners, Anderson and the corners. We should use transition tag on Hargrave. Ton of interest on him. I don't know if can you transition tag a defensive tackle? I don't think you can and still get 2 first-round draft picks. I think that's just for quarterbacks for the first-round draft picks.
Yeah, I don't know what that.
Plus, we couldn't afford the tag number of probably like $17 million.
Right. I think it's always exclusive. I think the cornerback's the only one.
Brian Betting says, I'm finding out you guys won't answer certain questions. Which ones won't we answer? I can't answer every single one. Hit me, Brian. Ask. I'll answer your question. We've got questions going like crazy right here. It's like going like this on my little screen.
Oh, I don't know if this was it. His last one was, what round would you get a backup quarterback? I'm looking at Malik Cunningham to back up Hurts.
Malik Cunningham, I mean, late. We don't have the luxury of a 5th-round draft pick this year to take somebody. I like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but he's not 7th round, sure. But what are you going to do? Trade up into the 5th to take him? I don't think so.
Right. Especially after paying a quarterback. We're going to see what the contract is with Jalen, but
there it is.
You're not taking that pick any earlier than 7, especially in a draft that you already are low on draft picks anyway.
Yeah, you can't give Jalen Hurts $50 million a year and then like have to go get a backup quarterback because he's going to get hurt all the time. Like you can still prioritize the backup quarterback spot, and then they will, whether it's what's his face, Minshew Manny or somebody else. But it's just not a need, right?
This won't be 2020. Let's just say you're not going to see a quarterback drafted in the 2nd round.
Big Chris, I'm not answering every single question. Big Chris, not every single one. Devontae job is to avoid contact. Forbes job to create it. The same. If you watch Forbes tape, him is a good tackler, better than most of these guys, bugger than him too, bigger. Never seen a player with that skinny of legs ever. Talk about Devontae Smith. I know he's tiny, but he's a beast. Carter at 10 says Big Chris. I think we would all take Jalen Carter at 10 if you could guarantee he's going to be fine. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I like Dorian Thompson-Robinson better. I do too. But again, what are you going to do? I mean, we don't have draft picks. If they had 10 draft picks, you could almost guarantee they're going to take the UCLA quarterback. It'd be like a guarantee, but they have 5.
Yeah.
What's crazy though is these compensatory picks. If they do end up getting the 3 that we're expecting them to get, I think the number is 3. You're looking at 9 picks in the first 4 rounds next year because they have 2 second-round draft picks. 9 in the first 4 rounds. 9 in the first four rounds is like Dudley and Harry Potter's birthday, where he has like 46 presents and he doesn't know what to do with all of them. Like that's how many. That's what Howie Roseman has for 9 draft picks in the first 4 rounds. It's insane.
Yeah. And then he's going to trade those. You can just watch. It's going to be magical. So
crazy.
It's just this season trying to make do with the limited draft picks, and then next year is going to be fantastic with that many.
Totally agree. All right, Josh, what do you got coming up? What's your show tomorrow? Give us a little preview.
Yeah, we're going to actually look into, there's a sneak peek of the Kelsey and Roseman interviews. We'll take a look at that, maybe some insights. Is he hinting at something?
He's got
so we're going to, Yeah, we're gonna look at that, and then we've also got similarly some other free agent targets, as well
Good.
as maybe some rumors of potential. Yeah, I know the Eagles are having some interviews with some very large players. You've seen some tackles and whatnot. So
Yes.
just figure out what Howie's doing. We'll decide for that.
How Howie of it? How Howie of them will it be when they just take like the best left tackle available at 10 and they just go, everybody in the Eagles fan base
Yep.
who wanted skill players, double bird to you. We're taking a tackle. This is what we do. I'm telling you,
Yep.
it'd be the most.
It'd
It
be
would
the most Howie thing ever.
kill draft night's fun. But
That would
in the
be
end, we'd be like, he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. So
Yeah,
what
yeah,
are you
it
gonna
would
do?
be an absolute buzzkill. Then at that point, the only thing that I would be hoping is just please don't trade out of 30, because to take an offensive lineman, again, it's the boring pick. It's probably the smart pick in most cases, but yeah, I'd be sitting there then going like, really, we got to wait till 30th to hope that we actually take a skill player. So we'll see.
Hey,
But
we're
they're
gonna have
talking to a lot of linemen, which makes me again think, don't put it past him.
Philly
Don't put
special
it past
show
him.
tomorrow. Be sure to subscribe. He needs 300 more to get to 1,000. Definitely help him out there. At least we have the luxury. I'll finish with this. We have the luxury of 2 first-round draft picks, at least for now, until Howie trades. Eagle fans are going to have a lot of fun on night 1 of the draft versus Dolphin fans and Ram fans who will have no fun because they don't get it.
Zero.
So it'll be much of fun. Andrew B., thanks for the great show, fellas. Kept me awake during the last hours of work. You are welcome. Much healthier for you than a Red Bull. Don't drink those. Listen to us instead. Subscribe, thumbs up, and this will be posted on my channel. So if you missed the beginning, we talked about a lot of stuff. Stay tuned for that. For the Wednesday Link, Josh Davis, Philly Special Show, Thomas Mott. We'll see you guys next week. See ya.